Well, it's not really a matter of what Congress can do about it. It's really up to the president.
In part one of our interview on immigration reform, Derek Morgan of the Heritage Foundation made the case against amnesty for those here illegally and outlined the think tank's recommended approach.
Would you agree that the immigration reform, as the president himself has said, it's a broken system?
Absolutely. In fact, we've called for a number of years that a step-by-step approach for immigration reform would really be looking at fixing the border, making sure that we have workplace enforcement, and then also looking at reforming the legal immigration system, so those who do want to come to the United States legally can do so.
Now, Derek Morgan answers more tough questions about securing the border and what to do about those in America illegally.
Let's say we've secured the border, nobody's come in for at least 12 months, maybe even 2 years. We've seen no illegal crossings back and forth, or very minor. Then what do you do?
Well, you have the border issue. So you have the issue of people coming across the border and we don't know who they are and so forth. That's a security risk and that's a problem. If you solve that, you still have the problem of visa overstays. About 40% of unlawful immigrants today actually overstayed a visa. So they came here legally, but when that visa expired, they decided to stay. So you'd also have to make sure that you weren't having a lot of visa overstays as well. But assuming you had both of those problems fixed, then you could address some of the more difficult problems at that point.
I'll tell you a little bit what this sounds like, is that really you don't want immigrants coming across the border. That at the end of the day, there's a lot of talk about securing the border, but you don't really ever think we'll get it secure enough or fix the visa program enough.
Absolutely not. In fact, we think legal immigration strengthens our country. It makes us stronger economically. It helps to bring the best and the brightest to the United States. And I think that we want to see people come to the United States the right way and not unlawfully. Again, because it's really unfair to those who do play by the rules. Now, any sovereign country needs to have control of its borders. We need to know who it is that's coming into the country. I think you can talk to ranchers and farmers and private citizens all along, particularly our Mexican border, and it doesn't feel very secure right now. And that's really a threat of the first order for folks in that community, many of whom are Hispanic Americans.
How do you know, how do you define when the border is actually secure? Because I think that's one thing many on the left would say is it'll never be secure enough for the Heritage Foundation and some conservatives in Congress. So we'll never get to the bottom of this because it'll never be good enough for you guys. What is your definition of a secure border?
I think that's a fair criticism in some ways, and I do think that there's also some on the right who decide, well, if we throw $40 billion at the problem, then we can call it a day, and we'll say it's secure, and I don't think that's the right approach either. In fact, I think that'd be a big waste of taxpayer dollars. Instead, what you should really do, really one metric that can't be fudged, or it'd be very difficult to fudge, is to look in the United States Census. So those estimates we were talking about, is it 10 million or 11 million or 12 million or so forth? We actually count millions of people in the census who are here unlawfully. And then we can extrapolate from that and take a guess, and it is guesswork within a million on either side, but we do have a pretty good sense of who is here unlawfully now in that population.
The 11 million that are here, is it really realistic to think they're all going to go home?
Oh, of course not. No, nor is it realistic to deport all 11 million people, and nor is that our preferred policy. I think what we ought to do is make sure that we have the border secure, make sure we do have workplace enforcement. Again, two things that were promised over 20 years ago that would be part of immigration reform. And once you do those things, then the businesses will all have to be playing by the same rules, and Americans who are here, including legal immigrants and first-generation Americans, would be able to compete for the jobs on a level playing field rather than having to compete with unlawful workers.
You stated earlier that immigration has been a great foundation for this country.
Yes.
How much of this is about just stopping immigration on the southern border?
It's not about stopping immigration at all. In fact, the United States today admits more immigrants that could ultimately become citizens than the rest of the world combined. Let me repeat that. The United States lets in more legal immigrants who can become citizens than the rest of the world combined. We love immigrants here. We think they come to the United States and make us stronger. That's probably part of our DNA because so many of us were immigrants or descended from immigrants. And it's a great thing. But let's remember, for every 11 undocumented or illegal workers, you have 4 people waiting in line, and you've got about 31 who came here the right way, who follow the rules, and who are here living in the United States, either now as naturalized citizens or as legal permanent residents. So to focus only on those who come illegally is really unfair to those others who came here and did things the right way, or are waiting in line patiently now.
Join us next time for more tough questions on immigration reform for Derek Morgan of the Heritage Foundation.